The transport ship shook as it approached Research Station Omega-7. Jin-Woo Park pressed his face against the small window and watched the massive station grow larger. It looked like a metal fortress floating in the darkness of space, with bright lights marking its many levels and sections. Jin-Woo had dreamed of this moment for years. Fresh out of the academy with his xenobiology degree, he was finally going to study real alien life forms. His hands trembled with excitement as he gathered his belongings. This was his first real job, and he wanted to make a good impression. The docking bay was busy with workers moving cargo and equipment. Jin-Woo stepped off the transport with his single bag and looked around in wonder. Everything was bigger than he had imagined. The ceiling stretched high above him, and massive doors led to different parts of the station. "You must be the new xenobiologist," a stern voice said behind him. Jin-Woo turned to see a tall woman in a crisp uniform. Her name tag read, Commander Hae-Jin Kim. She had sharp eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Her expression was serious, almost cold. "Yes. Ma'am, Jin-Woo Park reporting for duty," he said, trying to sound confident. Commander Kim looked him up and down. "You're younger than I expected. How old are you, Park?" 24, ma'am." She made a small sound that might have been disapproval. "Follow me. I'll show you to your quarters and give you the safety briefing. On this station, safety isn't just important, it's the difference between life and death." As they walked through the corridors, Commander Kim explained the station's purpose. "We study the most dangerous alien species in the galaxy. Each creature here could kill a human in seconds if given the chance. That's why we have strict protocols for everything." The walls were thick metal, and Jin-Woo could hear the hum of powerful energy barriers. Red warning lights blinked at regular intervals. Signs in multiple languages warned of various dangers. It was nothing like the clean, peaceful research labs he had trained in. "The creatures here are kept in maximum security containment," Commander Kim continued. "Some are poisonous. Others are incredibly strong. A few can attack your mind directly, but one is more dangerous than all the others combined." They stopped in front of a massive door marked with symbols Jin-Woo didn't recognize. The door was at least 4 inches thick, made of some kind of reinforced metal. Warning signs covered every surface around it. "Subject 47 Alpha, Commander," Kim said quietly. "A female from the Valthara species. She's 12 feet tall and stronger than 10 men. Her species nearly wiped out 3 human colonies before we won the war." Jin-Woo stared at the door. Behind it was a real alien, one of the enemies from the war he had studied in school. "What does she do exactly?" "She kills anyone who gets too close," Commander Kim said simply. 3 researchers have died trying to feed her manually. Dr. Sang-ho tried it 6 months ago. She broke his neck so fast the cameras barely caught it. Before him, Dr. Yoonbi thought she could sedate the creature first. She never even got the injection ready. The commander's voice became colder. "The first one was Dr. Tae-min. He believed these creatures could be reasoned with. He was wrong. Very wrong." Jin-Woo felt a chill run down his spine. "Then how do you feed her?" "Automated systems only. The food drops through a slot in the ceiling. No human contact, ever. That's not just a rule, Park. It's the law on this station." They continued the tour, but Jin-Woo's mind kept returning to the door. What did a 12-foot-tall alien look like? What did she think about all day locked in that cell? Did she understand where she was? His quarters were small but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a small window looking out into space. Commander Kim handed him a tablet with his assignments and schedules. "You'll start with the safer specimens tomorrow," she said. "Work your way up gradually. And Park?" She fixed him with those sharp eyes again. "Stay away from Subject 47 Alpha. I don't care how curious you get. That creature has killed before and she'll kill again if given the chance." After the commander left, Jin-Woo sat on his bed and read through the files on his tablet. Most of the creatures seemed fascinating but manageable, but he kept thinking about the Valthara female behind that massive door. He pulled up what little information was available about Subject 47 Alpha. The file was mostly classified, but he could see basic details. Height, 12 feet, 2 inches. Weight, estimated 340 pounds. Captured during the final battle of Calith Prime. Age, unknown. Behavior, extremely hostile to humans. There was a single photo. Jin Woo stared at it for a long time. The creature looked almost human, but wrong in ways that made his skin crawl. Her limbs were too long, her features too sharp. Her skin had a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors in the light. But it was her eyes that caught his attention. They didn't look like the eyes of a mindless killer. They looked sad. That night, Jin Woo couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those strange, sad eyes staring back at him. He told himself it was just his imagination. The creature was a killer, a monster from the war. Commander Kim had made that very clear. But as he lay in his narrow bed, listening to the constant hum of the station systems, Jin Woo couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Subject 47 Alpha than anyone realized. The Academy had taught him that all life forms were worth studying, that understanding led to knowledge and knowledge led to progress. Tomorrow he would start his new job studying aliens. He would follow all the rules and stay safe. But deep down, Jin Woo knew that eventually he would have to see the Valthara female for himself, not through photos or files, but with his own eyes. The station continued its slow orbit around the hostile planet below, carrying its cargo of dangerous creatures and curious humans through the endless night of space. 3 weeks had passed since Jin Woo arrived at the station. He had settled into a routine of studying the smaller, safer alien specimens. But every day, he found himself walking past the corridor that led to Subject 47 Alpha's containment area. Every day he forced himself to turn away. The other researchers noticed his interest. So Young Choi, a data specialist who had worked on the station for 2 years, warned him during lunch one day. "I see you looking toward that section," she said, quietly. "Don't even think about it, Jin Woo. I was here when Dr. Sang-ho died." The sound, she shuddered and didn't finish the sentence. But Jin Woo couldn't stop thinking about the creature. He had read every available file, watched every approved video recording. The Valthara female moved with a strange grace that didn't match her size. In the security footage, she sometimes stood perfectly still for hours, staring at the wall. Other times, she paced her cell like a caged animal. What bothered him most was that she never tried to escape. A creature that strong could probably break through the barriers if she really wanted to, but she just waited. For what? The answer came on a Tuesday morning when the station's main power grid failed. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as backup systems struggled to maintain life support. Jin Woo was in Lab 7 when the alarm started blaring. The automated feeding systems went offline across the entire station. "All personnel to emergency stations." Commander Kim's voice echoed through the corridors. "This is not a drill. Maintain all security protocols." Jin Woo joined the other researchers in manually feeding the smaller creatures. It was dangerous work. Even the safest aliens could be unpredictable when hungry or stressed. But they managed to complete the task without incident. As they finished, Dongmin Lee, the security chief, approached with a grim expression. "The automated feeder for Subject 47 Alpha is completely down. The backup system won't be online for at least 12 hours. She can wait," Commander Kim said firmly. "It won't kill her to miss one meal." But Jin Woo had studied alien biology. 12 hours without food for a creature that size could cause serious health problems. Worse, hunger made most species more aggressive, more dangerous. That evening, after his shift ended, Jin Woo made a decision that would change everything. He gathered food supplies from the storage area and made his way to the restricted section. His hands shook as he entered his access code at each security checkpoint. He told himself he was just being a good scientist, following proper care protocols. The corridor leading to Subject 47 Alpha's cell was darker than usual, lit only by emergency lighting. Jin Woo could hear something from behind the massive door, a low sound that might have been singing. He approached the manual feeding slot, a small opening protected by 3 separate barriers. The first 2 opened easily with his access card. The third required him to override the safety protocols. "Manual feeding in progress," He spoke into his recording device, trying to keep his voice steady. Subject appears calm, proceeding with standard nutritional delivery. He pushed the food tray through the slot and waited. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he heard movement. Soft footsteps that seemed too quiet for such a large creature. "You are not the machine," a voice said. Jin Woo nearly dropped his recording device. The voice was deep but clearly female, speaking accented but understandable human language. I'm just delivering food," he managed to say. "Why?" The voice came closer to the slot. "The others, they came with weapons. With anger. You come. With food. Why?" Jin Woo's mind raced. The creature could talk. She could think, reason, communicate. This changed everything he had been told about her. "Because you were hungry," he said honestly. Silence for a long moment, then, "What is your name, foodbringer?" Jin Woo Park. Jin Woo, she repeated, as if testing the sound. I was called Nithara before the burning of worlds." "Nithara," Jin Woo said carefully. Are you feeling better now? The food, I mean." "The hunger in my belly is gone," she said. "But there are other hungers that food cannot fill." Jin Woo heard something in her voice that he hadn't expected. Loneliness. Deep, aching loneliness that seemed to echo through her words. "How long have you been here?" he asked. "Many seasons. Many cycles of light and dark." I stopped counting, when the pain of counting became too great. Against every rule he had been taught, Jin Woo found himself sitting down next to the feeding slot. "What was it like? Before? Your home, I mean." Another long silence. Then Nithara began to speak, and her words painted pictures of a world unlike anything Jin Woo had imagined. She described cities that grew like living trees, reaching toward triple suns. She told him about the younglings she had cared for, how they learned to sing the old songs and tend the crystal gardens. "I was a nurturer," she said. "My people called me tender of small ones. I taught the children how to listen to the harmony of all living things." "But the war," Jin Woo started. "Was a mistake," Nithara said firmly. "A terrible mistake born of fear and misunderstanding. Your people thought our mind touch was an attack. We thought your silence meant you had no souls." They talked for hours. Jin Woo learned that Nithara had been captured while protecting a group of younglings during the final battle. She had never been a soldier, never killed anyone until the first researcher had approached her with an electric prod and hostile intent. "Self-defense," she said quietly. "But defense feels like murder when you are caged like a beast." When Jin Woo finally left, his head was spinning with new understanding. The creature, no, Nithara, wasn't a monster. She was a teacher, a caretaker, someone who had lost everything and everyone she had ever loved. But as he made his way back to his quarters, he realized he had made a fatal error. He had fed the alien, yes, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he had done something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined possible. He had given her hope. Jin Woo couldn't concentrate on his work the next day. His mind kept returning to his conversation with Nithara. Every file he tried to read blurred together. Every specimen he examined reminded him of her words about the harmony of living things. During his lunch break, he found himself walking toward her corridor again. He told himself he was just checking to make sure she was okay after the power failure. But deep down he knew the truth. He wanted to talk to her again. This time, he brought more than food. He carried a small tablet loaded with images of Earth, forests, oceans, cities, people living their daily lives. If she was truly intelligent, maybe she would be curious about his world the way he was curious about hers. "Jin Woo?" Nithara's voice came through the feeding slot almost immediately. She had been waiting for him. "I brought something," he said, pushing the tablet through the slot along with her meal. "Pictures of my world. I thought... You might want to see." He heard her pick up the device, then a sharp intake of breath. "These are real? Not false images? Real." That's where I grew up. Jinwoo pointed to the screen, though she couldn't see him. A place called Busan, by the ocean. For the next hour, Nithara studied each image carefully. She asked questions about everything. Why humans built their cities from dead stone instead of living materials. How the oceans stayed in place. Without crystal barriers, what the small furry creatures in the park images were called. Dogs, Jinwoo explained. We keep them as companions. They're loyal and friendly. Companion creatures, Nithara said thoughtfully. We had similar bonds with the wind singers, small creatures that made beautiful music and warned us of storms. As they talked, Jinwoo began to feel strange. At first he thought it was just excitement at making this incredible discovery. But gradually, he realized something else was happening. He could sense Nithara's emotions, her curiosity, her sadness, her growing trust. What's happening to me? He asked suddenly. You feel it, Nithara said, and there was wonder in her voice. The mind touch. I did not think it would work with your species. Mind touch. How my people communicate true meaning, not just words, but the feelings and pictures behind the words. I have been so alone, Jinwoo. I reached out without thinking, and you opened to me. Jinwoo felt a warm presence in his mind, gentle but unmistakably alien. Through this strange connection, images began to flow between them. He saw Nithara's memories as clearly as if they were his own. A world of impossible beauty unfolded in his mind. Cities that seemed grown rather than built, their walls covered in living crystals that sang in harmony with the wind. Creatures unlike anything on Earth moved through gardens that bloomed in colors Jinwoo had no names for. He saw Nithara as she had been, not a monster, but a graceful being tending to young ones who barely reached her waist. The children were smaller versions of her, with the same metallic skin that shifted colors with their emotions. They laughed as she taught them to make the crystals sing, their skin flickering from silver to warm gold with joy. Then came the darker memories. Ships falling from the sky like burning stars. The children's skin turning deep purple with fear as explosions shook their crystal city. Nithara gathering as many younglings as she could carry, running through corridors filled with smoke and screaming. The final battle was the worst, human soldiers cornering them in what had once been a nursery. Nithara placing herself between the weapons and the children, her skin flashing angry red as she tried to explain, to make them understand. But the humans couldn't hear her mind voice, couldn't sense the terror and confusion in her thoughts. When the soldiers opened fire, Nithara fought like the protective mother she was. Her great strength, meant for lifting younglings and shaping crystal gardens, became a weapon of desperate defense. But there were too many humans, and in the end, she could only watch as the children she had sworn to protect fell silent forever. Jinwoo jerked back from the feeding slot, tears streaming down his face. The images faded, but the emotions remained. Nithara's grief was like a weight crushing his chest. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. You were not there, Nithara said gently. You did not know. Your people fought what they thought was a war, but it was really just fear-killing. Innocence. Through their mental link, Jinwoo felt her loneliness more clearly than ever. She had been alone for years, surrounded by beings who saw her only as a monster. The isolation had been slowly driving her mad, until his simple act of kindness had given her something to hold on to. Why did you trust me? He asked. Because you came with open hands, she replied. And because your mind touch feels like the younglings I once knew, curious and kind and unafraid of new things. Over the following days, Jinwoo found excuses to visit Nithara regularly. Their mental connection grew stronger, allowing them to share not just memories but thoughts and feelings in real time. She began to see Earth through his eyes, the beauty of human art and music, the complexity of human emotions, the capacity for both cruelty and compassion that his species possessed. In return, she shared more of her culture. She taught him fragments of Valthara songs, melodies that seemed to resonate in his bones. She showed him how her people had lived in harmony with their world, never taking more than they gave back. But their secret couldn't last forever. Security Chief Dongmin Lee noticed Jinwoo's frequent trips to the restricted section. He began watching the young scientist carefully, noting the timing of his visits and the subtle changes in his behavior. Jinwoo had become calmer, more thoughtful. Sometimes he would stop mid-conversation and smile as if hearing something wonderful that no one else could detect. His work was still excellent, but his focus had shifted in ways that made Dongmin suspicious. The security chief reviewed the monitoring logs and discovered that someone had been manually feeding Subject 47 Alpha. The automated systems showed regular meals, but additional food was being delivered through the emergency slot. Dongmin set up additional surveillance and waited. 3 days later, he caught Jinwoo in the act. "Step away from the containment unit," Dongmin ordered, his hand on his weapon. Jinwoo turned slowly, his face pale but determined. "Chief Lee, I can explain. You're under arrest for violation of containment protocols," Dongmin said. "Commander Kim wants to see you immediately." As the security team escorted Jinwoo away, he heard Narthara's voice in his mind, filled with fear and rage. "They take you from me," she said. "I will not allow this." The lights in the corridor began to flicker, and a deep vibration ran through the station's hull. Narthara was doing something, using abilities that had never been recorded in her file. "Wait," Jinwoo called back toward her cell. "Don't hurt anyone, please." But he could feel her emotions through their bond, protective fury unlike anything he had ever experienced. To Narthara, Jinwoo wasn't just a friend. Through their mental connection, he had become something precious in her culture, something that must be protected at all costs. He had become her sacred charge, and she would kill anyone who tried to take him away. Commander Kim's office felt like a courtroom. Jinwoo sat in a hard chair while the commander paced behind her desk, her face dark with anger. Security Chief Lee stood by the door, blocking any escape. "3 researchers dead," Commander Kim said, coldly. "3 good people killed by that creature, and you thought you knew better than all of them. Commander, if you would just listen, I've heard enough." She slammed her hand on the desk. "You violated direct orders. You put the entire station at risk. Do you have any idea what that thing is capable of?" Through the walls, they could hear a low humming sound. The lights flickered again, and Jinwoo felt Narthara's distress like a physical pain in his chest. She was searching for him, her psychic abilities reaching through the station. "She's not dangerous," Jinwoo said desperately. "Not the way you think. She was protecting children when she was captured. She's a teacher, not a soldier." "Teacher?" Commander Kim laughed bitterly. That teacher snapped Dr. Sangho's neck like a twig. Because he came at her with a shock prod. She was defending herself. The humming grew louder. Coffee cups on the commander's desk began to vibrate. Through his link with Narthara, Jinwoo could feel her panic growing stronger. Meanwhile, 3 levels down in the archives, So Young Choi was having problems of her own. The station's computer systems were acting strangely, with files opening and closing randomly. At first, she thought it was a virus or system malfunction. But as she watched, she realized the computer was being controlled by something else. The files that kept opening were all related to the Valthara War, classified documents that shouldn't have been accessible to her security level. But somehow, they were unlocking themselves, displaying their contents on her screen. So Young had always been curious about the war. The official history seemed incomplete, full of gaps and inconsistencies. Now, with these classified files appearing before her, she began to read with growing horror. The first document was a communication intercept from the early days of the conflict. Valthara transmissions that had been decoded years after the fighting ended. The aliens hadn't been making threats or battle plans. They had been trying to establish peaceful contact, sending messages about trade and cultural exchange. Another file contained testimony from a human psychic who had been present during first contact. He described feeling overwhelming curiosity and friendliness from the Valthara minds, not hostility. But his reports had been classified and ignored. The most damning document was a military analysis written after the war. It concluded that the entire conflict had been based on a misunderstanding. The Valthara's telepathic abilities had been interpreted as mental attacks, when they were actually attempts at communication. Dear God, So Young whispered as she read. We committed genocide by mistake. The files revealed that fewer than 20 Valthara had survived the war. Most were held in facilities like this one, studied like dangerous animals rather than the intelligent beings they were. Back in the commander's office, the situation was getting worse. The humming had become a vibration that shook the entire station. Equipment malfunctioned throughout the facility as Nithara's psychic distress affected every electronic system. She's looking for me, Jinwoo explained, through our mental link. The more upset she gets, the stronger her abilities become. Mental link? Commander Kim's eyes widened. You let that thing into your mind? It's not like that. She's gentle, curious. She shared her memories with me. Commander, you have to understand, she was captured while protecting children. The others who died, they approached her as enemies. But I came as a friend. Security Chief Lee's radio crackled. Commander, we have problems throughout the station. The containment systems are fluctuating. Some of the other specimens are getting agitated. Through the floor, they could feel heavy footsteps. Nithara was pacing her cell, and each step sent vibrations through the station's structure. Sedate her, Commander Kim ordered. No. Jinwoo stood up. That will only make it worse. She'll think you're trying to hurt me. Let me talk to her. Absolutely not. The lights went out completely for a moment, then came back on emergency power. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm began blaring. So Young burst into the office without knocking, her face pale and her hands full of printed documents. Commander, you need to see this. The station's computer opened classified files about the Valthara War. I think it's being controlled by the alien psychic abilities. More evidence that the creature is dangerous, Commander Kim said. No, you don't understand. So Young spread the papers on the desk. The war was a mistake. The Valthara weren't attacking us. They were trying to make peace. We killed an entire species because we misunderstood their attempts at communication. Commander Kim stared at the documents. Jinwoo could see the moment when her certainty began to crack. This can't be right, she said quietly. It's all here, So Young insisted. Military reports, communication intercepts, post-war analysis. The Valthara were peaceful. They had no weapons, no army. They were scientists and artists and teachers. The vibrations intensified. Through his mental link, Jinwoo felt Nithara's anguish like a knife in his heart. She was remembering her lost people, feeling their pain as if it were fresh. She knows you're reading about the war, Jinwoo said. She can sense it through the station's systems. All that grief, all that loss, it's overwhelming her. Commander, Security Chief Lee's voice was tight with worry. The containment barriers around Subject 47 Alpha are fluctuating. If they fail, she won't hurt anyone unless she feels threatened, Jinwoo said. But she won't let you take me away from her, either. In her culture, I've become her protected one. She would rather die than abandon someone under her care. Commander Kim looked from the classified documents to Jinwoo, to the flickering lights above them. Everything she had believed about the most dangerous creature on her station was crumbling. What exactly are you saying, Park? I'm saying that Subject 47 Alpha, Nithara, isn't a monster. She's a survivor, a refugee, a being who lost everything and everyone she ever loved because of our mistake. The humming stopped suddenly. The vibrations ceased. In the silence that followed, they could hear something new coming through the walls, a sound like crying but deeper and more mournful than any human sorrow. She's grieving, Jinwoo whispered, for her people, for the children she couldn't save, for all the years of loneliness. She opened those files because she needed someone to finally know the truth. Commander Kim sat down heavily in her chair. The classified documents lay scattered across her desk like accusations. Outside, the station hung in space around a dead world, carrying the last remnants of a species that should never have been destroyed. What do we do now? She asked quietly. Through his link with Nithara, Jinwoo felt a shift in her emotions. The grief was still there, but underneath it was something else, a fragile hope that maybe finally someone would listen to the truth she had been trying to tell for so long. The emergency meeting lasted 3 hours. Commander Kim, Security Chief Lee, So Young, and Jin Woo sat around a table covered with classified documents while the station's systems slowly returned to normal. Nithara had calmed down, but Jin Woo could still feel her presence in his mind, watchful, protective, waiting. Even if these documents are accurate, Commander Kim said carefully, it doesn't change our situation. Military Command still considers Subject 47 Alpha a Class A threat. We follow orders here. But the orders were based on false information, So Young argued. If Command knew the truth about the war, Command doesn't want to know the truth, Security Chief Lee interrupted grimly. Too many careers were built on that war. Too many medals given out for heroic actions against peaceful civilians. Jin Woo felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's air conditioning. What do you mean? I mean that certain people in high places have a lot to lose if the real story comes out, Lee explained. Admiral Hyun-soo made his reputation commanding the fleet that liberated Kalith Prime. General Mina built the orbital defense network that protected humanity from Valthara aggression. They're not going to admit they were wrong. The communication panel beeped. Commander Kim accepted the incoming message and Admiral Hyun-soo's weathered face appeared on the screen. Jinwoo recognized him from history books, the hero of the Valthara War. Commander Kim, the Admiral said, without preamble. I've received concerning reports about unusual activity on your station, something about psychic disturbances and system malfunctions. Yes, sir. We've had some technical difficulties with one of the specimens. Subject 47 Alpha, I assume. The Admiral's expression hardened. I'm sending the research vessel, Determination, to your location. Dr. Jae Sung and his team have developed new techniques for extracting useful information from Valthara neural tissue. Jinwoo's blood turned cold. Through his link with Nithara, he felt her sudden terror as she somehow sensed the threat approaching. Neural extraction? Commander Kim asked carefully. The creature's brain contains unique psychic abilities that could be weaponized, Admiral Hyun-soo explained. Dr. Jae Sung believes he can isolate and replicate these abilities for military use. The subject will not survive the procedure, but that's acceptable. It served its research purpose. The connection ended. In the silence that followed, Jin Woo felt Nithara's mind touch his own. Images flowed between them. Her memories of Dr. Jae Sung from years ago. A man with cold eyes who had studied her like a laboratory specimen, who had spoken about her as if she were already dead. They're going to kill her, Jinwoo said quietly. She's a prisoner of war, Commander Kim replied, but her voice lacked conviction. Military command has the authority. She's not a prisoner of war. Jinwoo stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. She's a refugee, a survivor, and they want to cut open her brain to make weapons. Through the station's hull, they could hear something approaching, the deep rumble of ship engines. The Determination was arriving ahead of schedule. Security Chief Lee checked his instruments. Military vessel requesting immediate docking clearance. They're not taking no for an answer. Nithara's emotions flooded through Jinwoo's mind. Not just fear, but a deep, resigned sadness. She had known this day would come eventually. The humans had kept her alive only as long as she was useful to them. I have to warn her, Jinwoo said, moving toward the door. Stop right there, Commander Kim ordered. You're still under arrest for violating containment protocols. Then arrest me properly, Jinwoo shot back. But I'm not going to let them. Murder an innocent being without at least saying goodbye. He pushed past Security Chief Lee and ran toward the containment section. Behind him, he could hear Commander Kim shouting orders. But he didn't stop. Nithara needed to know what was coming. The corridor leading to her cell was empty. Jinwoo reached the feeding slot and pressed his face against it. Nithara, can you hear me? I hear. Her voice came back, calmer than he expected. I feel what you feel, Jinwoo. They come to end my song. I won't let them, he said desperately. There has to be something we can do. What can two voices do against a chorus of hatred, she asked gently. You have given me great gifts, little friend. Kindness when I expected cruelty. truth when I lived in lies. I am grateful. Don't talk like you're already dead, Jinwoo insisted. Help me think, you have abilities they don't understand. Can't you escape? Where would I go? I am the last song of a dead world, Jinwoo. When I am gone, the memory of my people dies with me. Through their mental link, Jinwoo felt the depth of her despair. She wasn't just facing her own death. She was facing the final extinction of her entire species. But then he felt something else in her mind. A memory she hadn't shared before. Images of a distant world where other ships had fled during the war, other survivors hiding in the far reaches of space. You're not the last, he said suddenly. I can see it in your mind. There are others. Perhaps, Narration admitted. But I will never see them, and they will never know what happened to those of us who stayed to protect the younglings. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Commander Kim approached with a full security team, while behind them came strangers in military uniforms. Dr. Jae Sung was a thin man with precisely trimmed hair and eyes like surgical instruments. Mr. Park, Dr. Jae Sung said pleasantly, please step away from the containment unit, we have work to do. I won't let you hurt her, Jinwoo said, spreading his arms to block the feeding slot. I'm afraid you don't have a choice, the doctor replied. He nodded to his assistants who carried cases full of medical equipment. The creature will be sedated and transferred to my laboratory ship. The procedure will be complete within 6 hours. Through his link with Narration, Jinwoo felt her sudden shift from despair to fierce determination. Her voice whispered in his mind, I will not go quietly to their cutting tables. The lights began to flicker again. The vibrations returned, stronger than before. But this time, they had a different quality. Not random psychic distress, but focused, purposeful power. What's she doing? Dr. Jae Sung demanded. Jinwoo felt the answer through their mental connection. Narration was reaching out with her abilities, not just to the station's systems, but beyond them. She was calling across the void of space, sending a signal that only her own kind could hear. A distress call. A final message from the last of Calith Prime. Deep in space, something answered. The vibration stopped suddenly. In the silence that followed, Dr. Jae Sung ordered his team to prepare the sedation equipment. But Jinwoo felt something different through his link with Narration. Not defeat, but anticipation. They come, her voice whispered in his mind. The station's long-range sensors began screaming warnings. Commander Kim's communicator buzzed urgently. Commander, came a panicked voice from the bridge. We have multiple contacts approaching. Unknown ship configuration. Through the feeding slot, Jinwoo heard Narration make a sound he had never heard before. A complex harmony that seemed to resonate through the station's hull. Her skin was shifting colors rapidly, cycling through silver, gold, and deep blue. She's communicating with them, Jinwoo realized. Other survivors. Dr. Jae Sung's face darkened. Impossible. Our intelligence confirms that Subject 47 Alpha is the last of her species. Your intelligence was wrong about a lot of things, So Young said as she arrived with more security personnel. In her hands were additional classified documents, including the location of the Valthara refugee ships. The new files told a story that made Jinwoo's heart race. Small groups of Valthara had escaped the final battle, fleeing to the outer rim of the galaxy. They had hidden there for years, slowly rebuilding their numbers while avoiding human space. Admiral Hyun-Soo's voice crackled over the communication system. Commander Kim, you will transfer Subject 47 Alpha to the research vessel immediately. We have unidentified ships approaching and I want that creature secured before... His transmission cut off abruptly. The lights flickered, then stabilized at a different frequency. Through the station's windows, new stars appeared. But they weren't stars. They were ships, dozens of them, surrounding the human vessels. The Valthara had come for their lost. Sister Dr. Jae Sung tried to activate his sedation equipment, but the machines wouldn't respond. Every electronic system on the station was now under Narason's control, guided by her psychic abilities and coordinated with the approaching fleet. You will not harm her, a new voice said through the communication system. It was speaking human, language, but with the same musical quality as Nithara's voice. "We have come to reclaim what was taken from us." Jinwoo felt Nithara's emotions surge through their link, joy so intense it made him dizzy. She was no longer alone. Her people had found her. "This is an act of war," Dr. Jae-sung declared. "That creature is human property, captured in lawful combat." "There was no lawful combat," Commander Kim said quietly. She had been reading So Young's documents, and her face was pale with understanding. "Only misunderstanding and fear." Through the feeding slot, Nithara spoke to Jinwoo. "My people offer safe passage to any human who wishes to leave, but they will not abandon me again." "What about the research?" Dr. Jae-sung demanded. "The military applications, we need those psychic abilities." "To make weapons," Jinwoo said. "To kill more innocent people." The containment barriers around Nithara's cell began to deactivate, not by force, but by careful manipulation of the control systems. Her people understood human technology better than anyone had imagined. "Stop this," Dr. Jae-sung ordered his assistants. "Use the emergency protocols." But the emergency systems no longer responded to human commands. The massive door to Nithara's cell opened for the first time in years. Jinwoo stepped back as she emerged. Standing at her full height, Nithara was even more impressive than the photographs had suggested. Her metallic skin shimmered with colors that had no names, and her elongated limbs moved with perfect grace. But it was her eyes that held him, the same sad, intelligent eyes he had seen in her file, now bright with hope. "Hello, Jinwoo," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "Hello, Nithara." Security Chief Lee raised his weapon, but Commander Kim stopped him with a gesture. "Stand down, all of you." Dr. Jae-sung looked furious. "Commander, you're making a terrible mistake. That creature is military property." "That creature is a person," Commander Kim said firmly. "A person who was wrongly imprisoned based on false information. I won't be part of this anymore." Through the communication system, the Valthara fleet commander spoke again. "We ask for the return of our sister and safe passage from your space. In exchange, we offer something your species values: knowledge." Admiral Hyun-soo's voice crackled back to life. "What kind of knowledge?" "The location of uninhabited worlds suitable for human colonization. Resources that could support your growing population for centuries. Scientific advances that could help heal the damage your species has done to its home world." Jinwoo felt Nithara's emotions through their link. She was offering humanity a gift instead of demanding revenge. Despite everything that had been done to her people, she still believed in the possibility of peace. "And all you want is one alien prisoner?" Admiral Hyun-soo asked suspiciously. "We want our sister," the Valthara commander corrected. "And we want humanity to know the truth about what happened during the war. Let there be no more misunderstanding between our peoples." Dr. Jae-sung made one last desperate attempt to seize control. He lunged toward Nithara with a neural disruptor, but Jinwoo stepped between them. The device struck him instead, sending pain shooting through his skull. Through their mental link, Nithara felt his pain as if it were her own. Her skin flashed angry red, and for a moment Jinwoo saw what the other researchers had faced: 12 feet of protective fury ready to destroy anything that threatened someone under her care. But instead of violence, she chose healing. Her long fingers touched Jinwoo's forehead, and the pain disappeared. The neural disruptor's effects were neutralized by her psychic abilities. "I will not let harm come to you," she said gently. "You were the first to show kindness when I had forgotten what kindness felt like." Commander Kim arrested Dr. Jae-sung and his team for assaulting a civilian. Admiral Hyun-soo, faced with overwhelming evidence of military misconduct and the potential for a beneficial alliance with the Valthara, agreed to the exchange. As the Valthara ships docked with the station, Jinwoo felt the moment approaching when he would have to say goodbye to Nithara. Their mental link would fade with distance, and she would return to her people while he remained with his. But as they reached the docking bay, Nithara stopped. "I do not wish to break our bond," she said. "In my culture, you have become precious. To me, not as a possession, but as a chosen family." Among my people, such bonds are honored above all else. What are you saying? I am saying that you could come with me, if you choose. My people are establishing a new colony world far from human space. They would welcome the one who showed compassion to their lost sister. Jinwoo looked around the docking bay. At Commander Kim, who had found the courage to do what was right. At So Young, who had uncovered the truth. At the human crew members who were learning that the monsters they had feared were actually people worthy of respect. Then he looked at Nithara, this gentle giant who had lost everything but still chose forgiveness over revenge. Will I be able to come back? To help bridge the gap between our species? When you are ready, she promised. We will need ambassadors, people who understand both worlds, but first let me show you the beauty of what we are building from the ashes of what was lost. Jinwoo made his choice. 3 months later, the first human Valthara cultural exchange was established on the neutral world of Haven. Jinwoo served as humanity's first ambassador to the survivors, helping to translate not just language but understanding between two species that had almost destroyed each other through fear. The war crimes trials that followed exposed the truth about the conflict, leading to major reforms in humanity's first contact protocols. Dr. Jae-sung and several military commanders were convicted, while Admiral Hyun-soo's heroic reputation crumbled under the weight of evidence. But the real victory was smaller and more personal. In the crystal gardens of the new Valthara colony, Jinwoo watched Nithara teach young survivors the old songs of her people. Her skin glowed warm gold with contentment as she tended to children who would grow up in a world without war. Sometimes she would look at him and smile, and he would feel through their enduring mental link the harmony she had spoken of. The connection between all living things that chose love over fear, understanding over hatred. The caged alien giantess had been freed at last. And in freeing her, humanity had freed itself from the burden of an unnecessary war and opened the door to a better future among the stars.